Taylor, thank you. A leading aviation research firm recognizes Green Bay Austin Straubel International Airport as the 2025 best overall non-hub airport in the entire United States. It recognizes GRB's excellence across air service, airport service quality, strong financial platforms for airline economic performance, and overall value delivered to passengers and the region. Passengers like the speed of which they can get from the parking lot right to the gate and the convenience of the shorter TSA lines. The airport director says this recognition actually did come as a surprise.
Well, it's fantastic. Obviously, being the top non-hub airport out of 276 non-hub airports across the U.S., it's fantastic.
Yeah, I like the smaller airports. The smaller airports are nice because TSA, there's usually no line. You can walk in.
GRB is the third largest airport in Wisconsin, only one of two commercial airports designated as a landing rights airport by U.S. Customs and Border Protection for international flight arrivals. Lots of good things there.